Hi, my name's Kate Morris. I'm a careers consultant at the University of York, and these are my application form top tips. So firstly, what's actually included in an application form? You're going to be asked for some generic details, your qualifications, work history, contact details, that kind of thing. But the focus of it will be evidence of how you actually meet the requirements of the job. And this is either done through a personal statement or some specific questions, sometimes both. You might also get asked for some supporting evidence like references, which could be academic or from a previous place of work. So application questions are usually competency-based and specific to the role. There's normally a fixed word count of around between 100 and 500 words. So some examples would be, our core values are collaboration, authenticity and sustainability. Please detail how your values align with ours. Or it could be something like, please give an example of how you've adapted your communication style to work with different people. Or tell us about a time when you've demonstrated effective leadership. So they're picking stuff that you need to be good at or have experience of for that particular job, and you're having to prove it to them. An example of this would be, give an example of when you've developed effective working relationships within a team. I've developed excellent interpersonal skills through my position as Press and Publicity Officer for the History Society. Through other group-related experiences, I noticed that the most successful and enjoyable teamwork I've been involved in has been when the whole group are working towards clear goals and have respectful, positive working relationships. Consequently, when I started my role within the History Society, I made it a priority to take time to build authentic relationships with the committee. I built these relationships in a few ways: setting up a WhatsApp group for team messaging, taking time to chat about non-work related subjects during meetings to foster personal connections, and ensuring that I followed up on emails promptly, delivering on what I'd agreed to do, which helped build trust and respect. I think this ability to build effective collaborative relationships with a range of different people will help me quickly and confidently integrate within the NHS management team. So this answer was using the CAR technique. CAR stands for Context, Action, Result. So think of it as the beginning, middle and end of a story. So the context, you're setting the scene, the action, what did you do and why did you do it, and result, what was the outcome. So if you look at that example question and break it down, so give an example of when you developed an effective working relationship within a team, your context is you're saying, I've developed these really sort of great interpersonal skills through this specific position in this society. I really like how they've said it was through other group-related experiences that they noticed what the sort of formula for success working in a teamwork was, building these positive relationships and working towards clear goals. It can sound really preachy when people say like, oh, the best teamwork is when we all work together, or the best way to do such and such. Rooting it in your experience rather than saying you're reading it out of a prospectus or a guidebook or something is much more powerful. Then they move into the action. So they've actually said, I made it a priority to take time to build authentic relationships. So that's what they did. But then they've detailed how they did it. They built it in a few different ways and they've explained what they did. But then they've told you why they've done it. So the WhatsApp chats were to foster personal connections. Replying to emails promptly were delivering on what they'd agreed to do. Moving into the result of all of that action was it helped build trust and respect. And then they've nicely linked it back to the job that they're applying for and sort of demonstrated how they've answered the question. So again, they've repeated these effective, collaborative or working relationships with a range of different people. So applying that can really give your answers so much more power. You might get asked to do a personal statement on an application form. Similarly to questions, this will usually have a fixed word count, but it can vary. Sometimes it can be 1,000 words, sometimes it can be 10,000 words. You need to make sure you address all the criteria. This is a mistake that a lot of people make, where you just focus on what you think is the most relevant stuff and make sure you've covered that, but you're missing out the bigger picture. And when an employer is assessing this, they're likely to have a list of everything they've asked for, and they will be ticking off, have you demonstrated that? So if you are making sure you've covered it all, that's going to help you to sort of get to that next stage of the actual recruitment process. Now, sometimes these lists can be very long, so you could consider combining the requirements or competencies together and using these as subheadings as you go through the statement. So I've got an example of that in a moment, but sort of typical ways they introduce a statement could be something like, explain how your skills and experience meet the criteria of the role. Quite broad, it's an overview of everything. Or tell us why you're a good fit for this opportunity. Or evidence your interest in and suitability for the post. So that final one, that's interesting, that's using the word interest. So you're really having to sort of demonstrate your motivation specifically. Although I would suggest in any personal statement, you're making that clear as you go along. An example would be explain how your skills and experience meet the criteria of the role. And let's just say they've collated here communication, teamwork and problem solving. So those were 3 of the things that the job description was asking for. So the answer. During my internship at a children's charity, I worked in a team to develop a new fundraising event. Initially, we were given a budget of £100 for marketing and event hire, but our funding grant application fell through 3 weeks before the event. This problem could have resulted in the event being cancelled, which would have prevented the charity from raising vital funds. However, I recognised the opportunity to work with local businesses who may be interested in sponsoring the event and pitched this idea to the team. I anticipated that some team members may have concerns about conflicting values and/or the practicalities of this approach, so I was careful to research suitable potential options and considered how we could balance corporate advertising with the aims of the charity. As an intern, I knew I may not be taken seriously, so I created a PowerPoint presentation to help me communicate my ideas in a professional and effective way to the rest of the team. The team loved the idea, and we successfully secured sponsorship from 4 local businesses who helped promote the event to customers. The event itself raised over £3,000 for charity, and there are now plans to establish greater relationships with the local business community. If we break down that particular section of the personal statement, you can see again they were using the CAR techniques. So the context, they were explaining that they were working in this team to raise money for this charity. So they've sort of established that right at the beginning. They've said, the problem was they've lost their funding and it's going to stop them raising so much money. So they're using that same language that's been mentioned in the subheading there. They're making it very clear. Action. I really like how they've sort of then moved into, I recognise the opportunity. If you're talking about teamwork, it's natural that you're going to be saying we, our, that kind of thing, but you want to move into what you personally did. What was your contribution? I think it was also really interesting how they said that they anticipated some members may have concerns. That really shows that strategic thinking, which relates to problem solving. That was another potential problem, that they wouldn't be taken seriously. And instead of just rocking up, pitching the idea and waiting for questions, they made this PowerPoint presentation to kind of talk in a professional way and speak their language. So they were communicating in the appropriate way for that particular setting. So again, they're really sort of mirroring the language. They're making it very clear how they demonstrated those qualities. The result, lovely hard outcome here for local businesses, £3,000 for charity, but amazingly, it also led to these kind of plans to establish greater relationships within the local business community. So they've had a lasting impact there. So they've gone above and beyond their initial brief. But I wouldn't bold these words in real life on your statement, but mirroring the language of what it is they're looking for, again, makes it super easy for the person assessing this to go tick, 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 yep, I can see that they've met the criteria. Now, some application forms will have weird questions on. So this could be something like, tell us about something that made you laugh this week. Or what's the best advert you've ever seen and why? Do you prefer cats or dogs? How would you design a spice rack for a blind person? So these weird questions, they're more common in things like the advertising industry, where they want lateral thinkers to come up with sort of creative ideas and campaigns. They can sometimes be more scientific or technical jobs, like the spice rack thing is just, it's a, thought experiment. But it's also kind of getting a sense of your personality, because as I've kind of probably hopefully made clear from the previous sections of this video, it's quite easy. Once you get the formula for how to write an application, It's not that difficult. You just follow the instructions and you get on with it. That doesn't necessarily help your personality and interest shine through. So by having these more off the wall questions, it's a way of getting you to think more creatively and kind of keep the actual employers interested. It's pretty non-standard. Like, you will not get this if you're applying for a law firm or something very conventional, but you can sometimes get this for different types of grad schemes. So there's no winning formula for this. I think approach it in whatever way you kind of think best. Make sure you're answering the question, but I would say keep it authentic. Really sort of actually be yourself in those type of questions. My application do's and don'ts would be: do answer the actual question. Sounds obvious, but sometimes people go off on a complete tangent, forget what they're actually supposed to be talking about. Really make sure you are rereading the actual question you've been asked and your answer does address all aspects of it. Make sure you really understand the role and the company that you're actually applying for and what they do. It's easy to bash out a load of applications without really understanding, and sometimes jobs can have quite vague titles, companies can be a bit ambiguous, so make sure you've got that clear in your own mind when you're approaching this, because it will shine through if you don't really understand what it is that you're applying for. Definitely do provide evidence of your skills. Don't have stuff like waffly, oh, I'm good at this, I'm good at that, I'm a team player and I can work on my own. You really want to back it up with evidence. Keep it positive. Don't emphasize what you don't have. So if you've not got that much experience of something, or you're kind of lacking an aspect of something, you want to focus on your interest in building on what you do have, your excitement for gaining more experience. Definitely stick to the word count, because their computer program may just have an auto cut-off thing, and definitely always check your spelling and grammar, because that can be a complete no-no for a lot of companies and just an automatic reject. So that was kind of a don't. Let's look at some more don'ts. Do not copy and paste from different applications. It's very tempting to do that, but it can lead you to make mistakes and again end up not really answering the question. Don't forget to cover all the criteria. That's so important. Have that list of what they're looking for and make sure you can tick it all off by rereading your application. Don't use the wrong company name. Again, sounds obvious, but I've seen it so many times. And I've spoken to employers where they've had someone write a really good application, but unfortunately they accidentally put the wrong company name in because they'd clearly copied and pasted it from another application. And it was an instant reject. And if they just used the right company name, the company would have put them through to the next round. Don't apply for jobs that you don't meet the eligibility criteria for. If they're asking for 5 years experience and you don't have that, you don't want to waste your time and energy kind of giving it a go anyway. I would say this is a bit of a grey area, and if in doubt, contact the company first and say, look, I'm really interested in this position, this is my situation, would you still encourage me to make an application at this time? And finally, don't apply for a job you don't actually want. That sounds really silly, but sometimes people can get in a bit of a panic about, oh, I need to get a job for after graduation, and just apply for lots and lots of things. And of course, end up getting something that they weren't expecting to, and then end up in a massive dilemma about whether to take it or not, because it feels like it's an opportunity, but on the other hand, it's something they really don't want to do. So it feels a very difficult decision. I get the fact that you might be applying for things that are not necessarily your dream job or something you want to do for the rest of your life. Just look at it as a stepping stone, but you want it to be something that you could envisage yourself doing, at least in the short term, and that you'd feel sort of comfortable working that environment. If it's something that you really don't want to do, then just don't put your energy into it. If you'd like more support writing application forms, have a look at our recruitment resources. So we cover applications, CVs, cover letters, assessment centres, psychometric tests and interviews. And if you'd like feedback on an application form or a personal statement, that could be for a job, an internship, or it could be for further study, just submit it by uploading it to your Handshake record and message the careers information team on Handshake. Don't forget to tell us what you're actually applying for, but you don't need to make your document public in Handshake for review. We can still see it. So I hope this has helped, and good luck with your applications.